What's the number one thing that's holding most people back from reaching their full potential?
The story. The story they sell themselves on. Everyone's got a story. And everyone wants to tell you their story of how bad they had it, how hard they had it. And the more times you tell yourself or others that story, the more you reinforce the fact that you're not meant to have happiness, success, abundance, great relationship, awesome health, abs, whatever. They don't realize that they still hold the pen. There's thousands of empty pages still in that book that they can rewrite that story. But we have to let go of the pages that others have written in our book and realize we got this pen and we can start writing how the story looks from this day forward. But what's stopping them is the work that they haven't done, the work of healing through their traumas, their insecurities, their limiting beliefs, whatever the thing is.
Seven rules of life. Number 1, let it go. Never ruin a good day by thinking about a bad yesterday. Number 2, ignore them. Don't listen to other people. Live a life that's empowering to you. Number 3, give it time. Time heals everything. Number 4, don't compare. The only person you should try to be is the person you were yesterday. Number 5, stay calm. It's okay not to have everything figured out. Know that in time, you'll get there. Number 6, it's on you. Only you are in charge of your happiness. Number 7, smile. Life is short. Enjoy it while you can.
You will spend your life completely wasting your time. You'll be doing things you don't like doing in order to go on living, that is, to go on doing things you don't like doing, which is stupid. Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way.
You got to remember, right? 8 hours we sleep, or we should, 8 hours, decent amount of time, or sleep for 6 and snooze for 2, like most people do. Getting showered, eating food 2-3 hours a day.
That's 12 hours.
12 hours taken away instantly. Half of the time on the planet is going to maintenance, to just living, like to being here. 12 hours we have a day to really dedicate to stuff that we want to do. 8 of those hours are taken up in work. What does that leave? Fuck all, basically, but 4 hours a day to actually do shit that you want to do. So you better find something that you fucking love doing every day for your career.
7 billion people need to change the conversation of what success looks like. It is not to make $1 billion. It is to actually wake up in the morning and be in a good mood. How about people in here realizing that they have a job that might pay them a little bit more than something else, but they hate it, but they're not willing to live in a more humble home or drive a more humble car, and so they have a miserable job just to pay for shit that they have to impress other people that they don't even like. How about that fucking conversation? The problem is everybody thinks you have to make $1 billion, and the problem is nobody has humility to live a $100,000 lifestyle. My biggest fear of my popularity is that you think you have to do it like me. The only hope I have when you look at me is that you try to figure out your version of you that makes you as happy as my version of me makes me. You need to figure out that for you. Not what your parents think, not what I think, not what the comments think, you.
I didn't leave my job to be rich and famous on TV. I left my job for, yo-ho-ho, a pirate's life for me. We're doing comedy. I'm doing a gig above a pub. Someone gave me £20 cash in hand. It was crazy. I'd had like a good job. But it's that thing where you go, the good is the enemy of the best. How much to not live your life? How much to not follow your dreams? How much do I have to give you across the table? Now, I'm saying this to you now, right? And you're a wealthy man, you're an investor or whatever, so it's going to be a high figure. But for most people in their mid-20s, they've just left college, or early 20s, they've left college, and you go, I give you 35 grand to compromise on everything and always be tired and just work to my time. And people go, okay. that's the thing of like working for someone else is, I think, that's the big shift, right? So my stand-up is a metaphor in the book. I'm not trying to get people to become stand-ups. Frankly, I don't need the fucking competition. But the idea of going and doing your thing, even if it's less successful, but doing your thing, being your boss, being your CEO, great. Like, I'm all about that. When people tell me they've started a little business or done a little thing, you just go, yeah, fucking boss.
Now, the biggest enemy of success, I would say there's probably 3 enemies of success.
Yeah.
The first big enemy is the comfort zone. But the comfort zone is where people become comfortable doing what they're doing, and they don't like to change. So there's tremendous resistance to change in our society. 80% of the population finds reasons not to change, even if the change can be positive or beneficial. The second thing that holds people back is what is called learned helplessness. This is where people feel, I can't do it. And the third enemy is what we call the path of least resistance, which is always looking for an easy way to achieve a result. But nothing worthwhile can be achieved easily.
I talk about this thing I call the 2-minute rule. And the idea is to just take whatever habit you're trying to build and you scale it down to the first 2 minutes. I had a reader who did something similar to this. He ended up losing over 100 pounds. And one of the ways that he did it was he went to the gym, but he wasn't allowed to stay for longer than 5 minutes. So sounds kind of crazy, but for the first 6 weeks, he went and he showed up and he did like half an exercise, and then he would leave and go home. And to most people, they hear that and they're like, well, it's kind of ridiculous. You're wasting your time. You're not actually going to get in shape from that. But the point is, he was mastering the art of showing up. And a habit has to be established before it can be improved. Until you become the person who shows up every day, there's nothing to optimize. We're so worried about figuring out the best diet plan or the best business idea or the optimal way to, boost my bench press or whatever. We search for all these perfect plans, but we don't do the thing that is fundamental to all of it, which is just showing up. And the 2-minute rule is one way to do that.
What if doing well in school and in life depends on much more than your ability to learn quickly and easily? I started studying kids and adults in all kinds of super challenging settings. And in every study, my question was, who is successful here and why? My research team and I went to West Point Military Academy. We tried to predict which cadets would stay in military training and which would drop out. We went to the National Spelling Bee and tried to predict which children would advance farthest in competition. We partnered with private companies asking which of these salespeople is going to keep their jobs and who's going to earn the most money. In all those very different contexts, one characteristic emerged as a significant predictor of success. And it wasn't social intelligence, it wasn't good looks, physical health, and it wasn't IQ. It was grit. Grit is passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. Grit is having stamina. Grit is sticking with your future, day in, day out, not just for the week, not just for the month, but for years, and working really hard to make that future a reality. A few years ago, I started studying grit in the Chicago public schools. I asked thousands of high school juniors to take grit questions.
How do you advise people that are dealing with imposter syndrome?
Oh, everyone deals with that. Every time you make a status shift as you move upwards, of course you have imposter syndrome, because when you first make a transition into a new role, you are an imposter because you're a beginner. You don't know what you're doing. And that doesn't mean you're a liar or a fake. And it doesn't mean you should presume more knowledge than you have. It's, what did Nietzsche say? Every great man is an actor of his own ideal. And that feeds into the imposter syndrome in some sense. If you want to move to the next stage, at some point you have to act like you're already there when you're just barely started. And of course you're going to feel like you're an imposter if you have any sense, because you're just barely there. You just made the transition. That's okay. That's not a problem. First of all, you have to understand that Everyone with any sense who isn't narcissistic feels that.
This guy was failing out of high school, but he promised his mother he would take a test called the SAT. Well, this guy takes it. He's bombing. He's failing out of school. He doesn't expect anything. Well, he gets a 1480 out of 1600. He gets the score, and his mother says, "Did you cheat?" Because he realizes he's smart and he's going into his senior year. He says, "I'm going to go to class." Now he starts to go to class. He doesn't hang out with who he did when he didn't go to class. He graduates, goes to a community college, and becomes this massively successful magazine entrepreneur. So I said, okay, well, the guy was always smart. He just needed a standardized test to unlock it. My dad said, no, that's not the story. This is what I want you to understand. 12 years after all this guy's success, he gets a letter in the mail. Turns out the SAT board will periodically review their test-taking procedures and the policy. The year he took the test, he was one of 13 people sent the wrong SAT score. His actual score was a 740 out of 1600. And he said, people think my whole life changed when I got the 1480. But what happened? My whole life changed when I started acting like a 1480.
How old are you?
67.
What does it feel like to be 67?
Fantastic, because I'm still standing.
So what is life about in your opinion?
Doing the best you can and being kind as you can.
And if you could give any lesson to someone younger than you, what would you say?
Probably try and do the best thing you can by yourself. And then when you know and love yourself, you can actually give a little bit more to other people.
There's an amazing story about Kurt Vonnegut and Joseph Heller, who wrote Catch-22 and Slaughterhouse-5. They're at the party of this billionaire. Vonnegut is teasing Heller, and he says, this billionaire whose house we're at, he made more money this week than your book will make it its entire life. And Heller says, but I have something that he doesn't have. Vonnegut says, what's that? And Heller says, I have some idea of what enough is. He says, I have enough. This idea of enough is so powerful. Seneca, who quotes Epicurus, says, if you don't regard what you have as enough, you will never be happy, even if you rule the entire world, right? Enough is never enough, the Epicureans and the Stoics say, for the person who enough is too little. And if you can get to a place of enough, what I have is good, everything else is extra, then everything you get is a bonus, and the rest of your life is amazing. But if you tell yourself you'll only be happy if I'll feel better when, you'll never get there. The finish line will move, I promise you. Enough is enough.
Hey, miss, can I ask you a question for a documentary I'm filming?
Yeah.
So, the first question is, are you happy?
Pretty much. Content.
And is there any reason why?
I have a place to live. I have enough food. I have a pet. I have friends. So I have some income. Not too much, not too little. So when I help other people, so I'm happy.
If you had a message to anybody that's struggling with happiness, what would you say?
Try to look at what you have and what you don't have. And think of all the people who are in war-torn areas and kids who are...
Don't worry about whether there's an inside self or not. Stay with the gratitude. Just stay with the gratitude. Let it take up an old form of subject-object, if that's the way it takes its shape. But just stay with the gratitude and allow that gratitude in its own time just to purify itself from all subjectivity and objectivity till there's just this objectless and subjectless gratitude. And when gratitude is relieved of this polarity, of this direction, what is it revealed as? Just pure objectless love.
Yes.
That's what gratitude is. It's love with a direction. So as the direction just naturally melts, it's just this love that remains.
Oh.
So when people say, what are you doing? You say, things that please me. And they say, toward what end? And you say, pleasure. And they say, but really, what are you working on? And you say, having a good time. And I say, but what do you hope to accomplish? And you say, living happily ever after. And they say, but what do you want to leave as your legacy? And you say, I was a happy one. And they say, but what is the mark that you want to leave? life is joyous. But what is the value that you see in contributing to this time-space reality? I'm joyful, but what do you hope to accomplish? Being happy? It's hard for people to wrap their thoughts around that, and yet that's what all of existence is about, you see.